What's up, guys? To celebrate the hype of the new COD building, my friends over at G Fuel bumped code ESPRESSO up to 30% off your entire order over on their website. I know my personal favorites of Hype Sauce, Starfruit, and Pink Lemonade are all in stock again, so if you want to check those out or any of the various starter packs, tubs, cans, whatever it may be, feel free to check it out in the description below with code ESPRESSO for 30% off. Black Ops 4 was revealed on May 17th, 2018, over 2 years ago at this point, and when it was revealed, it was the largest event we'd ever seen, with multiplayer showcased, even playable, the most zombies maps confirmed for a launch, and even Blackout being debuted a little bit via preview. The world was shown the storm that was Black Ops 4 that was coming. Now flash forward and that game played out as it did, some ups, some downs, some good gameplay, some bad gameplay, and for many notable moments like perhaps some very enjoyable times in MP, but also things like the MTX system, the Black Ops Pass, and other things. But in 2020, what's different about it? How does the game play now? What differences are there now as opposed to when the game launched? Because believe it or not, there's actually a few big ones. Today I want to take a retrospective look back at Black Ops 4 almost 2 years since its launch and let you know what it's like today. So as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. Did you like Black Ops 4 for one? And if so, what was your favorite part about it? And if you are new to the channel, do be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Call of Duty in both retrospective looks here as we pass the time before COD 2020, but also in talking about new things, Modern Warfare, Warzone, and of course, that COD 2020 information as it becomes available. But anyways, let's talk about Black Ops 4 in 2020. Firstly, what's the player count like? How easy is it to find lobbies? Well, unfortunately, as we saw since back to Black Ops 3, specific player counts and numbers are hidden on the public end of things. You can't actually just jump into a game and see X amount of players are online, but you can sort of tell by how easy it is to find those lobbies. Whenever I jumped on, even late at night getting some footage, it seemed relatively easy to get these lobbies, so that's something that really isn't out of the ordinary when you consider that it's just 1 year removed. A lot of players still really prefer Black Ops 4 in the core fundamentals of the game to maybe say the mechanics of Modern Warfare, which there's nothing wrong with that. But Black Ops 4 undoubtedly has a much higher player count than say if you went back about a decade to Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops, Modern Warfare 3. Those games will of course have much lower player counts and games will be harder to find. Now in terms of gameplay, if you forget what this is all about, one of the big things you'll immediately have to readjust to is that of manual healing for everything. Even if you didn't have stim, you'd still have to manually heal yourself with what is normally left bumper. Admittedly, I feel like Modern Warfare's movement feels a little bit more fluid, so going back, it did feel a little bulkier compared to what we have currently. Also, it was nice though that we didn't have any tac sprint. That's definitely something that I kept mashing my thumbstick just out of that muscle memory, but that's fantastic that we didn't have to do that all that much. There also was one big thing I noticed: no recoil at all compared to some of the weapons we have in Modern Warfare. Some were just naturally no recoil weapons, but also some if you ended up throwing on, say, double grip of like the ICR, that weapon, your aim isn't gonna move anywhere. Overall, the player base is relatively what you'd expect. It actually kind of surprised me though. I did get matched up with quite a few low levels and people that seemingly just recently got the game, so that's cool to see the player count kind of still expanding there, or at least opening up to where there are players that are relatively fresh and newer, learning a little bit more about Black Ops 4 even still today. But I ended up finding a combination of people who could maybe call bots, but also a combination of like level 700 players and up that are just meta switch, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I just figured a year later when I jumped on for some matches, I wouldn't feel like some of them were COD champs. But again, just a little bit of the surprise of matchmaking there in that sense. But that's the beautiful part, is that there is zero skill-based matchmaking. You can have those sweats, you can have those bots in the same lobby because there is no skill-based matchmaking here at this. And yes, I understand the normal, oh, you just want a pub stomp, and sure, that'd be great. I'd love to do well every single game, but that's really not the case. I mentioned it before in the Blackout in 2020 video that it's great because I can go back and make these retrospective videos without the fear of getting absolutely trounced and playing for hours for minimal footage because, one, I'm already dealing with the major mechanical shifts and readjusting to a game that I haven't played in a year, but also I'd have to deal then with a skill-based baseline where players that I'd be matched up against were only as good as the stats that I had on that game. So it's nice that that added stress isn't there. But fundamentally, I also just don't agree with skill-based matchmaking to begin with. I mean, one, I'm not a professional. I may be good, I may be better than average, but that's the product of playing over a decade on a regular basis. If I was literally competing at a professional level, maybe that argument holds a little bit more weight, but still wouldn't really count it as much because even professionals deserve time off. You can look it up. Pros of any sport, hockey, basketball, football, golf, they all play rec league games to mess around all the time. Hell, I've played with some current and former pros in some of my rec league hockey games. They do it because they love the game and want to stick around, but at a more leisurely and relaxing pace. They don't want the playoff sports pace every single time they step on the ice, on the pitch, on the field, wherever it may be. Veteran COD players, I think, should be able to do the same. Just be able to relax and have fun with friends that maybe aren't as good at the game as them without being punished for it. So it was definitely a breath of fresh air to jump back and not have skill-based matchmaking immediately throw you into elo hell whenever you're just trying to casually play the game. It was also a nice refreshing breath of fresh air that we had prestiging systems up to level 1000 as well once you've reached past Master Prestige. That was definitely something that's nice, and having gone back, sure, whenever I go back, I'm usually capped out at a prestige. I don't prestige again to restart that process just because it's the end of the life cycle for the game for me. I'm going to play it maybe once or twice here and there, but I don't really care about grinding out and ranking up my weapons all again. But that's something that definitely feels missed here within Modern Warfare, so it was nice to go back and see that. Camos, I think, were absolutely fantastic within Black Ops 4. I know that they're kind of gimmicky for some people, they're not the cup of tea of many, but at the same time, I honestly think some of the traditional camos were, one, really good, but once you got up to that gold, diamond, and dark matter, to see that be reactive this year, and also have a ton of extracurricular reactive camos, that was awesome. And I loved the fact that halfway through the year or whatever it was, they did shift those reactive and mastercraft camos to be something that you could actually apply to other weapons. Maybe not so much the mastercrafts now that I think about it, but the reactives, 100% you could apply to any weapon. And that was fantastic. It offered up so much customization and so much variability and how a player could see their weapon. And that was fantastic. A little closer to the launch of Modern Warfare, maybe about halfway through the year of Black Ops 4, contracts were introduced. Going back and earning some supply drops here with that, even though I'm not a huge fan of the supply drop system, it was nice and a little bit of a refreshing change of pace as opposed to Modern Warfare, where yes, you can grind out a bunch of stuff, but really you're only getting, say, calling cards or something like that. So for the chance of getting a mastercraft or even a weapon or just a camo overall, it was kind of cool just for doing some stuff simple in-game. Talking about earning, if you're not somebody that has completed everything they want to, if you want to go back into MP, it's cool because there's actually double permanently on, which means double XP and double weapon XP for both your rank and also your weapon ranks as well, so you can get those attachments a little bit faster. So that was a really cool thing that now looking back at it, again, you just have that exponential boost just for simply jumping on, and it's not something that looks to be turned off. The Battle Pass is something that is still there. It was the introduction here within Call of Duty, and it's still that most recent season from last October that's in play. If you haven't completed that, you can still do so. If you have, well, you've already completed it, but it's Operation Dark Divide still, in which you end up having that 50 tiers of Battle Pass content laid out right in front of you. All right, so that stuff's all cool, but perhaps the biggest changes here that we've seen to Black Ops 4, and if you haven't jumped on since Modern Warfare launched, you may not really know too much about it. We talked a little bit about it at the time of launch last October, last November, but it was really all in passing because at that point, everybody's still grinding out Modern Warfare for the first time. But the black market and the way the contraband system worked within Black Ops 4 changed drastically after the launch of Modern Warfare. And that was something that was, at the time, kind of a slap in the face because we had talked about how we wanted these changes made for months upon months. And we'll circle back to that here in just a second, but when you take a look at the contraband system now, you of course do have that Battle Pass, but first in Blackjack's shop, there's a little bit of a difference here because you see your My Deals, but in the sense that it showcases one every couple of hours, but you also have the ability to get a reserve stack, which is opening up an item at the cost of 2 reserve cases, but you see exactly what you'll get. That refreshes once every couple of hours, but it's nice that you actually have the ability to see right up front what you were able to get. But also the biggest part here out of this was that everything had a comparable rate of cases, meaning that you could grind out the game 100% and be able to get these items. It wasn't something where, like the shop previously, it was stuck behind COD points, and it offered a little bit more value for your playtime, whereas beforehand, it didn't so much. But if you look in your reserves tab, you have the same ability to open cases and crates. You can trade in those 6 cases for duplicate protected crates, but you also have the ability to, 1, get a free pick a weapon bribe if you haven't already, and then you can also do that again for simply 2,400 COD points, or 50 cases if you don't want to spend that money. And also there are, of course, again, those deals, if you want to call them that, in the shop for dupe protected crates that are available with COD points as well. But the big one being, of course, that pick a weapon bribe, because you ended up getting dupe protected crates, plus also the choice to secure yourself one weapon or Mastercraft or Mark II at a time, and simply for playing the game. You, of course, had that option whenever it was first introduced. Everyone got that free redeemable one, but after that, again, you could do it with just simply crates. And that's something that players had asked for months upon months, ever since the Operation Grand Heist introduction, where supply drops were first introduced. And also same thing with Days of Summer, where full-on weapons were put behind supply drops. Now, over the course of however long we talked about this in Black Ops 4's main year, I'd come across many Treyarch employees that were not happy with the way the MTX was going. And it was something that, even at the time, we talked about, this isn't something that is in Treyarch's hands. It's an Activision business thing. And like we talked about in the Blackout in 2020 video, it also seemed to be one of those other things where Black Ops kind of walked so that Modern Warfare could run. Not only one did we have a lot of improvements in terms of functional and fundamental aspects of Blackout to Warzone and other things like that, but it seems like the culture of how the business side of Activision was going to work shifted as well. And it seemed like Modern Warfare was that stepping stone into a better era, and that Black Ops 4 was just, unfortunately, a byproduct of a poor time and culture that was just used to milking everything dry. And what sort of backed that up is the fact that right after all of these MTX changes were announced, right before Modern Warfare launched, then the game did. Right after that is when these changes to the black market went live. So it was something that we were just so close, and then once the shift actually happened in another game, it kind of domino affected back to the last as well. To me, I think that the MTX was perhaps the biggest stain on Black Ops 4, and so if we were to have a system like this, which still wasn't perfect, but it was a lot more fair than what we had, I think that it would have been something that, for me at least, would have been a lot more enjoyable. So going back in 2020, seeing how they sort of rectified the situation a little bit, it was nice. Again, it was a change of pace and something that, when I look back at Black Ops 4, it healed a little bit of the wound that I had during my time there. And overall, I think when I think about Black Ops 4 and having gone back now, it was an enjoyable change of pace. Modern Warfare, I think, fundamentally has some really good aspects as well. It has some stuff that I don't agree with. We've talked about that before, but it was nice to go back here and play Black Ops 4, both in a leisurely fashion, but also in a way that, again, like we talked about, say, skill-based matchmaking, was actually leisurely. I didn't have to try really hard or anything like that. I could just relax a little bit here with it. And since we talked about Blackout in 2020 in a recent video, I don't really want to spend too much time on that, but again, it was still fun to kind of go back and play around a little bit with, say, Alcatraz and the smaller aspects of that, the respawn factors there. But if anything, it was a good reminder of where we came and some of these new improvements we've seen with Modern Warfare at a basic level, like cross-play and cross-progression. That's such a key and crucial part here with it. Going back down to a 60 FOV was definitely something that was a little painful at first, and 60 FPS felt a little low, but it is something that I managed. I overcame that, but it was a lot of fun still to go back. And if you haven't done so in recent times, I definitely recommend giving it a shot, jumping on, playing a few games, because maybe you like it after all. But anyways, I think we're going to wrap it up, and that's what we're going to call it. So I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of Black Ops 4? Have you guys jumped on recently? Do you not care so much? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Call of Duty, some retrospective stuff like this, Modern Warfare and Warzone, and of course, as we round into it, more COD 2020 information. But if you're interested in any of that, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. I live on both those, so if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.